Find a Community. We're back with our popular segment where we speak to great people from the world of sport, and today it's no different. I have Miss Ashley Hart. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. Ashley, before we dig into your business, let's go back in time. Where did this journey begin?
This journey began back in North Carolina. I currently live in Florida, but I was living in North Carolina, had a job for a decade that I really loved, but knew I was transitioning out. And so just kind of was thinking what to do next. What am I passionate about? What do I think would make a difference in the world? And it boiled down to She Plays and what we're doing there by hopefully changing the sports landscape for women by introducing fantasy sports for women's leagues.
Very, very nice. So take me through the whole setup. What was it like getting started? What were some of the challenges you faced? Take us through what the actual business, what the business actually is.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it did start from an idea of I was actually trying to find a soccer game in North Carolina for a team in Florida, and it was really hard. They obviously weren't on TV, and the streams were not the best. So, just kind of thinking, gosh, the soccer team, like they've won the World Cup. Why is it so hard to get them on TV still in this country? So, yeah, just kind of from there, it went to, well, why aren't they getting on TV? And what's been missing, and why can't they have equal pay just given outright? And it kind of funneled down to, well, they're never going to get that until there's more demand, until they are on TV, on the radio, all that stuff. And so just trying to think of a way to organically, like in a new way, to promote people wanting to ask people to put them on the broadcast. And fantasy sports is so big in the United States. 59 million people play it. That's like 1 in 5 people. But no site has ever existed for women's leagues. Every now and then there's a women's league on DraftKings or FanDuel, WNBA because of their partnership with NBA, but a lot of the other leagues have just been overlooked. And so it was an idea for about 6 months, and then I decided, I think this is actually worth something and a good idea. And so I asked 2 of my best friends to partner with me, and we got it started. None of us are techies though. And so there was a search. Obviously, yeah, building a fantasy sports platform that is very tech intensive. And so got to be on a lot of phone calls. Actually, one of the companies that I called, the guy called me back and said, I've been waiting for this phone call. I've been waiting for someone to call and say they want to build fantasy for women's sports. So we did a little homework too, but that's who we went with. And we've been rolling ever since. It's a year tomorrow that we've been a company.
Wow. Great journey. Not being a tech is pretty tough because you have to learn along the way, really. And
yeah,
it can be costly at times. But okay, so what would you say your current challenges are, and what have your current challenges been to date?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as far as like having to build software up front, it's been the funding and getting funding for software development. They're thankfully like really patient with me because sometimes they have to explain things twice. So trying to find someone to fulfill a CTO role, or someone to partner with without being able to really provide salary at this point, someone who will take that on has been challenging. So yeah, the actually knowing the lingo when they're talking about software development and funding for it would be the 2 challenges.
So basically, the technical side of things has been the biggest challenge.
For sure, yeah.
Awesome. And how far into the business are you guys?
So we're about a year old.
Very, very nice. Okay, and in terms of tech, so based on your previous answer, tech's been a bit of a challenge. Moving forward, how will tech really put you guys past everybody else How will your tech make you guys leaders? Or what are you guys doing differently to everybody else?
Yeah, great question. So there are quite a few fantasy sports sites out there. Again, none that are solely dedicated to women's leagues like we are, but we are also trying to build games that are new and unique, different kind of challenges for tennis and golf. You can't do your typical like bracket challenge for those kind of tournaments. So figuring out new games, and also creating the tech, or creating the boundaries where people who are like the sharks of fantasy sports can't come in and eventually like take everyone's money. We're trying to make it as evenly playable as possible, evenly winnable as possible.
So how does she play stock like a DraftKings?
How does what?
How does she play stock like a DraftKings?
Stop them from what?
Basically taking over the female market or
Yeah.
penetrating your market basically.
Well,
Or
so
or stay ahead, I should say.
right. The timing's kind of perfect. From all of my estimations and conversations, they and FanDuel are both moving towards the sportsbook world. That's kind of a burgeoning industry here in the United States as more laws get passed and make it legal in different places. So their energy is NFL, fantasy, and then full steam ahead on sportsbook. So while I would have loved for someone like them to have taken this on in the past, and was kind of shocked that they hadn't, we really are thinking that we're in the right timeline for us to create it and not have much competition. Also, I will say that we're having to put in a lot of back end support for some leagues as well. A lot of them don't have like a natural stat collection site, and so we're having to do extra work to get that on a level that can then feed into our fantasy site, whereas some of these big names probably wouldn't take the time of day for that, just because it's more thought power, manpower than maybe they want to do. And we're partnering with leagues, so being an official partner, we get access to those leagues and those stats and get to be their official provider. Those are all a few ways that we're trying to set ourselves up to not have that happen. But I'm hoping and thinking that we're in the clear.
Yeah, no, it does make a lot of sense because there's still a lot of leagues that don't have much of a solid base. They're still doing things old school. So, startups like yourselves are going to really smarten things up for them and really guide them through, because we're seeing with the larger sports, there's so much money being invested in them that could potentially just really dominate the scene, and these small ones will suffer and eventually just deteriorate. So that's one thing that we don't want, because sport is what brings people together, no matter what color, race, religion, whatever you are. Sport brings everyone together, and it is a uniting force. And yeah, the choice should be there across the board. But so what does the future look like for you guys, other than growth and expansion? What's the one thing that's really going to make you guys say, "Oh wow, sheep play"? Everyone is beginning to recognize the sheep play brand. Like this week's
Right. I think so. We partner with the softball league, which starts their season in April, and we know that it's a 17-year-old league, and so it's well established. They've got 3 or 4 national teams that play in the league, so we're really excited about partnering with them and getting their fan base to our site. But I think what's just neat is that if you think about fantasy sports and just look at media right now. So like there are TV shows dedicated to fantasy sports. There are Sirius XM radio stations dedicated just to fantasy sports. All these news sites. There's now a scroll on ESPN when you watch, any sports game. There's a scroll on fantasy, and all of that's just been directed at men. And so when you open up something brand new, all of that is also open. So I'm just excited to see, who we can partner with to bring those kind of resources to women's leagues. Again, like the dream is, in a few years to be walking through a sports bar and hear someone talking about the premier ultimate frisbee league, and like they know what they're talking about and like the athletes that are in it because they now hear about it. They now know that it exists. So yeah, I think that would be the hope, is that we make women's sports more accessible and just provide their fans with ways that for a lot of leagues they've been asking for, and others just a way to kind of put them on the map in a bigger scale.
Very, very nice. How big is social media for you guys? Like, where does it come into play?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely huge. I think that, there's a whole shift in marketing going away from email marketing, and, each league too maybe has different channels that their fans are really popular on. So like soccer is really big on Twitter, but there might be others that are big on Facebook and others that are Instagram. So yeah, that's a lot of figuring out the pieces of the puzzle, is how best to target different audiences. And but we know that social media is, we're trying to build a community as well for our platform. So we know that takes a lot of different shapes on social media.
What's your what would you say is your ideal channel? What's the one channel that you think will really take off for you guys?
That's so hard. Because I've actually got some interns now, and one really wants to set us up on TikTok. So we'll see how that goes, or Twitch. But I would think Twitter is probably.
Sorry, you're a startup. You've got limited resources. Get on TikTok. Like the organic presence and reach is unbelievable right now.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
We did a campaign with a company. Within 3 weeks, we had over 3,000 followers.
Whoa.
Over 57,000 likes. Close to one of our videos got over 250,000 views. Another one got over 50,000 views. Space of 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
Yes. So I'm telling you, once you hit. So get on TikTok, engage this younger audience. The younger audience is growing. They're growing, and people adopting the platform. Their age, the median age is growing as well. Get on TikTok, and even Instagram's still pretty good if you get in with a few influencers. A bit more expensive, but there are decent influencers that can make things happen. But yeah, I'll leave that with you. Okay. So we've spoken about your tech, your future. This journey's only just begun for you. Your previous journey, you were employed. If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently?
I would say no, because now I'm wiser for the better. Of like, I've definitely made mistakes. So there's going to be mistakes that are made in the future, and just knowing that and giving yourself some grace and slack in that. I mean, there are definitely some decisions, like as far as like some legal fees, that would have saved us a lot of money that we thought we needed right then, but I don't think
a trademark.
No, so definitely I think trademark's worth it. Trademark and intellectual property is always worth it, I think, but just some other things in the fantasy world that we're not taking on right away like we thought we were. But I know that now, and I'm probably much the wiser for really doing even more homework and maybe being more patient in making decisions like that. So I'm thankful for it, but
startups need the magic P word, patience.
Yes.
If you don't have that, it's a very, very tough journey. So sorry to cut you off. Go on.
Oh, no worries. But I agree. Like, I think that when you're starting something and you have this idea that you love, you kind of want to get it out there as fast as you can, so in your mind no one steals it, but at the same time you're at the risk of doing some things too quickly maybe. So yeah, I've definitely learned that.
The biggest thing that with startups that I've learned is never rush, take your time. It's a long journey. Nothing happens overnight. Even your development, your marketing, everything takes time. And with your, especially with your socials, you just got to keep going until that one video hits, that second video hits, that third video hits. It's just the nature of things, unfortunately. You can't predict what's going to happen. Everything becomes a testing field. So that's all from me. Awesome. Ashley, anything else that you would change?
No, no, we're just excited, and I mean, I know that there are going to be things in the future, but I love where we're at right now, and excited for this spring and all the rollouts that we'll have.
Phenomenal. Ashley, thank you so much. You've been great. She Plays. It's going to be hopefully one day bigger than DraftKings. So before we let you go, where can we find you guys online?
Yes, so it's she-plays.com, and we're on Instagram, Twitter, and so Facebook at She Plays Pro.
Very nice, very nice. Miss Ashley Hart, thank you very much once again for joining me on the Sports Finder podcast.
Thanks for having me.